When people think about the American Mafia, they usually imagine gangsters, suits, cigars, and secret meetings in dark rooms. But what many forget is this: the Mafia didn't just fight the police, it fought the US government, and sometimes it fought the president himself. For over a century, American presidents were locked in a quiet war against organized crime. Some ignored it, some underestimated it, and some declared total war. This is the story of how US presidents tried to destroy the Mafia, and how the Mafia fought back. In the early 1900s, the Mafia was barely taken seriously at the federal level. Local police knew it existed, cities felt its power, but Washington looked away. Presidents believed crime was a local problem, not a national threat. That mistake allowed the Mafia to grow. Everything changed during Prohibition. When alcohol was banned, crime exploded. Suddenly, illegal liquor became a billion-dollar business. Gangsters didn't just make money, they built empires. Cities like Chicago, New York, and Detroit were practically controlled by mob bosses. Presidents could no longer ignore it. Herbert Hoover was one of the first presidents to truly acknowledge the Mafia as a national problem. During his presidency, famous gangsters like Al Capone became household names. Hoover ordered federal agencies to go after organized crime, but the tools were weak. Capone wasn't arrested for murder. He was arrested for taxes. That alone showed how limited the government's power still was. Franklin D. Roosevelt took things further. During the Great Depression and World War II, the Mafia was both an enemy and, surprisingly, a temporary ally. The US government secretly cooperated with Mafia figures to protect ports and prevent sabotage during World War II. Yes, criminals helped protect America. But once the war ended, Roosevelt's administration shifted back to fighting organized crime. The alliance ended. The war resumed. Harry Truman hated the Mafia. He believed organized crime corrupted democracy itself. Under Truman, congressional investigations exploded. The famous Kefauver hearings were broadcast on television. For the first time, Americans saw mob bosses questioned in public. The Mafia was exposed, and it hated the spotlight. Dwight Eisenhower continued the fight quietly. Behind the scenes, the FBI slowly expanded its surveillance powers. But there was a problem. The head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, publicly denied the Mafia even existed. For years. Many believe Hoover avoided the Mafia because it was too powerful or too dangerous. That denial allowed crime families to survive longer than they should have. Then came John F. Kennedy, and everything changed. Kennedy's brother, Robert Kennedy, became Attorney General, and Robert Kennedy declared war. A real war. Prosecutions exploded. Wiretaps increased. Crime bosses were hunted aggressively. The Mafia hated Robert Kennedy more than any politician before him. Some historians believe this hatred had consequences far beyond courtrooms. After Kennedy's assassination, conspiracy theories exploded. Was the Mafia involved? There is no definitive proof, but the question refuses to die. Because the enemies were real, and the motives were strong. Lyndon B. Johnson expanded federal power even further. New laws targeted organized crime directly. RICO laws were being prepared. Laws designed to destroy entire criminal organizations, not just individuals. For the Mafia, this was not just another political shift. It was an existential threat. When Richard Nixon came to power, the federal government's approach to crime became colder, smarter, and far more aggressive. Nixon believed in intelligence, surveillance, and pressure applied quietly but relentlessly. Wiretaps expanded. Informants were cultivated. Financial trails were followed with new intensity. Organized crime was no longer just chased, it was mapped. Ironically, the very tools Nixon relied on to fight the Mafia would later destroy his own presidency. Secret recordings, surveillance systems, and a culture of secrecy turned inward. Watergate proved that the methods used to hunt criminals could also consume those who abused them. Still, under Nixon, prosecutions of organized crime continued to rise. Crime families felt constant pressure. There was no pause, no breathing room. The federal government had learned how to squeeze, and it didn't let go. Then came Ronald Reagan. For the Mafia, this was devastating. Under Reagan, the RICO laws were no longer theoretical weapons. They were fully unleashed. Prosecutors no longer needed to catch mob bosses committing crimes personally. Being part of the organization was enough. Entire crime families were dismantled in courtrooms. Bosses received life sentences. Lieutenants flipped to save themselves. Soldiers testified against their own leaders. The sacred Mafia code, Omerta, the rule of silence, began to crack. Then it shattered. For the first time in American history, the Mafia started losing power not just in one city, but nationwide. Its fear factor evaporated. Its mystique died. Its grip weakened year after year. By the time Bill Clinton became president, the Mafia was no longer untouchable. It still existed, but it was fractured, paranoid, and constantly watched. Federal agencies had learned a crucial lesson. Organized crime doesn't survive confrontation, it survives neglect. And neglect was no longer an option. Surveillance remained constant. Financial oversight tightened. Informants were protected. Silence was never allowed to return. Today, the American Mafia still exists, but only as a shadow of its former self. It no longer controls cities. It no longer bends presidents. It no longer operates freely in the dark. Because over more than a century, American presidents learned something the hard way. Crime is never just local, and ignoring it only makes it stronger. Behind every famous gangster story, every headline, every legend, there was a president trying to stop it, sometimes too late, sometimes just in time. So now ask yourself, which president truly fought the Mafia the hardest? And should a government ever work with criminals, even during war? Because the real battle against the Mafia wasn't fought in back alleys or smoke-filled rooms. It was fought in the White House.